Chapter 5. Cam quickly went next door. She found a spot in the miller's yard where she could see between the hedge and the fence. She sat on the grass and watched the back of the yellow house. "Why is she so sure that someone is hiding here?" Mr. Jansen asked Eric. Eric shrugged his shoulders and shook his head. He didn't know. "And where did she go?" Eric shook his head again. Eric and Mr. Jansen walked ahead toward the miller's house. Then Mr. Jansen saw Cam sitting in the miller's backyard. "She can't do that. She shouldn't be sitting on someone else's lawn," Mr. Jansen said. "We know the people who live here," Eric said. "They bought candy and rice cakes from us. We can ask them if Cam can stay there." Mr. Jansen stood behind Eric as he rang the doorbell of the miller's house. Mrs. Miller came out wearing the same long, frilly apron. "Hello again," she said. "The chocolate fudge bar is delicious." "The rice cakes are good too," Eric said. Mr. Jansen stepped forward. "My daughter is Jennifer Jansen, the pretty girl with the red hair and freckles who came to your house earlier. She's sitting in your yard right now and watching the yellow house next door. If you don't want her there, I'll tell her to leave." "She thinks someone is hiding in there," Eric added. "She does? Oh my goodness, I must tell Jacob." Mrs. Miller came back a moment later with her husband. "The Pells live next door," Mr. Miller said, "but they're on vacation. They won't be back for several weeks." "Someone left a box of food on the back porch," Eric said. "Cam is watching to see if anyone will come out and get it." "Who is Cam?" Mrs. Miller asked. "Jennifer's nickname is Cam," Mr. Jansen explained. "It's short for the camera. We call her that because she has a photographic memory." "Oh, well, your camera daughter might be right," Mrs. Miller said. "The Pell's nephew may be in the house. I've never met him, but I know he's a writer. Mrs. Pell has told me that he has trouble finding a quiet place to work." "Let's go outside and see if Jennifer has seen anyone," Mr. Miller said. Mr. Jansen and Eric waited while Mrs. Miller took off her apron and hung it in the closet. She put on a straw hat with a wide brim. They all walked to the backyard. Eric sat on the grass next to Cam. The Millers and Mr. Jansen stood next to them. Mr. Jansen asked Cam, "What makes you so sure there's someone hiding in there?" "It's the newspapers on the front lawn," Cam said. "The newspapers," her father said. "That's a sure sign that no one is in the house." "I smell something," Mrs. Miller said. "Shh," Eric said. "I hear something." Mr. Jansen and the Millers bent down so they were hidden by the hedges. They were quiet. They didn't see anyone, but they heard something or someone moving. Tinkle! Meow! The black and white cat jumped onto the back porch again. With its paws and mouth, it tried to open the cardboard carton of milk. Mr. Jansen and the Millers stood up. "Eric and I each looked at a newspaper," Cam said, "and both papers had the same headline. Whoever is hiding in that house probably bought a bunch of papers the day he went into hiding, rolled them up, and threw them on the lawn so people would think the house was empty." Eric said, "The woman with the dark glasses may have thrown the papers here." The cat pulled the milk carton to the edge of the steps and stepped away. The carton fell down the steps and tore open. The cat began to lick up the spilled milk. Suddenly, the cat stopped. It looked up. Its legs were bent. The cat was ready to run. "It heard something," Mr. Jansen whispered. He and the Millers bent down. There was a creaking sound, then the back door of the yellow house opened.